call it to order at this time. Um, I offer an invocation, then we have the Pledge of Allegiance. Heavenly Father, thank you for bringing us here together again on this cold, brisk night. We just ask that you continue to be with us here. All those who are in situations where they feel unsafe, some may feel unwanted, some may feel cold and hungry, but we just ask that whatever their needs might be, that you would be with them and support them. Let them know that you will never leave them orphaned or alone. Just ask that you continue to look upon our community through this holiday season. Help us to get off to a good new year next year, and we just ask that we continue to do your work and the work of this community. We ask these things in your name. Amen. So now we have the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next item is to adopt the business agenda. I'd like for someone to make a motion.
I make a motion to adopt the business agenda as written.
Motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Smith. Is there a second to the motion? Second by, I think it was Mr. Stainback. Any more discussion on the matter? If there is none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those no, the agenda will be adopted as it is presented. Under unscheduled public comment, we do have one individual, Mr. Farabee. Good afternoon, Mr. Carl. Evening, I guess it would be now. Yeah, well, dark, it's evening.
I come before you guys kind of sad today, really, to be honest. And I'm here today in open session because I was not allowed to do a closed session the other week. And I'm still disappointed and upset at what transpired. And I'm going to kind of read real fast so I can make sure I got my 3 minutes in. I want the mayor and council to know that I'm disappointed. I am disappointed in our city leader for not being candid and consistent with our personnel policy. I view the entire city salary structure and our structure have for all department heads and directors paid more than the next employee. We had an employee that became interim, and in that, he was not done on that same protocol. It's not done on that same protocol. There was other employees that was paid the same thing, and he was the leader. So, with that being said, I was very disappointed in that. I brought it to individually brought it to each council. I brought it back to the city manager, and in that, I was told, we started talking about this in September, and later I was told, I'm going to take care of this, trust me. And that's the part that I'm sad about and disappointed in. I'm familiar with General Statute 160A, and I understand that. No problem. But I do know the protocol has been, we paid bonuses before, over and over. So we're not treating our employees the same. I'm not sure it's because who they are or how they are. I don't know. But I'm disappointed in that. And I would like for council to take another look at that, council and the city manager, take another look at that. It's not right. And I'm just asking them and you guys to do the right thing. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your comments, Mr. Farabee. Item 5 is the approval of the December 5th, 2023 regular meeting. Somebody's ready to make a motion to entertain. Motion by Councilman Bell. Here, second to his motion.
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Bryant. Is there any more discussion on the matter? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Minutes will be approved as they are presented. Call on Mr. Redmond for the presentation of the audit report. Good afternoon, Mr. Redmond.
Good afternoon. So I believe you have a copy of the report with you. 93-page report. I've got about 8 pages scheduled to talk about, but slow me down. Got any questions? I see we have a few new faces. So we'll just go over some numbers. We'll go over the details of the audit and any comments that we might have. We'll start on the numbered page 1. Again, these are the financial statements and audit report for the year ending June 30, 2023. The numbered page 1 is the independent audit report. This is a 3-page report that summarizes my responsibilities. It summarizes the town's responsibilities, the city's. The second paragraph summarizes basically the whole audit, which says, in my opinion, the audit is presented fairly in all generally accepted accounting principles and based on auditing standards. There are no findings or material departures from GAAP. It's an unmodified opinion, and that's what you're looking for when you have an audit. So we'll look at some numbers. Let's start on page 14. The main fund of the city is the general fund. There were a few grants this year, and we'll talk about those grants. That's the second and third column. But the first column is your general fund. For those of you who have been here and those of you who haven't, over the last few years, there's 3 financial issues that I've said the city could improve upon. When we're finished with this report, you'll see that the city did improve upon all 3 of those issues, and we'll talk about those. The first thing we talk about, cash in bank. First line, first column, $9.1 million cash in bank at the end of the year. There was $123,000 restricted cash. That's power bill money. That was restricted for law enforcement. The other number we talk about, and this is one of the areas I always say we can improve on, is your third line from the bottom. That's your unassigned fund balance, $8.5 million. That's about 47% of your total expenditures for the year. There's been plenty of years that it's been 20%, 24%. I don't remember being much above 27 or 28%. Minimum requirement average is 34%. So again, at June 30, 2023, the general fund of the city had a good fund balance. The second, third columns, you'll see they're blank. That's because of the assets. We'll talk about the revenues in just a minute. And we'll go ahead and do that on page 16. So on page 16, this is the revenues and expenses of the general fund, your direct grant, and your ARPA fund for the year. And you'll see the total revenues, general fund, $18.6 million. Total expenditures of $18.2. So this brings me to my second comment of financial improvement. General fund is designed to break even because you're providing services, but we always want it to make money if it can. And you see that $386,000 is the total amount of revenues over expenses. So that's your net profit, if you will, for the year before any transfers in. So if you go down one more line, I'm looking 3/4 the way down. There was a transfer in of $2.2 million. That's the ARPA money that came in that you were able to use to pay for your salaries. Part of the reason that some of your fund balance has increased over the last couple of years. But that shows your third line from the bottom, the increase in your fund balance, your profit for the year in your general fund is $2.6 million. The second column is just the state direct grant money coming in, money coming out, spent for improvement and renovations. And the third column is what I was talking about on the ARPA money. That's the $2.281 million that you received in this year and in the prior year for your COVID money. So, page 18, the same numbers, just compared to the budget. The reason we just mentioned this is if you overexpend budget in any department, it's a violation of state statutes. As you'll, in the far right column, there are no negative numbers per expenditure, so there are no budget violations. Just means that the finance department kept fund expenses in line. Any budget amendments were brought to the council and they were approved. So again, shows good internal controls on the finances. All of the notes for the next 30 pages are going to be summarized on page 51, and we'll talk about each item on page 51. This is what's called your change in long-term liabilities. So we got several long-term liabilities. We have a few notes payables, and you'll see that that's the first line of the table at the bottom of the page. Direct borrowings, that's all the notes. Start at year $1.4 million, made payments of almost $400,000. Total balance of $1 million at the end of the year. The tax increment special revenue bonds, you'll see started the year 8.3, made payments, finished the year at 7.6. Two new things. The lease liabilities was in the notes last year, but we financed leased 26 vehicles, I believe, this year. So it says an increase in your lease liability of $1.2 million. And that's a new thing for governments, is to record that as a liability. So you'll see that at the end of the year, we had $1.1 million as a lease liability. The item below that, subscription liability, just another new thing. You have softwares, and they're recommended that we set those up as liabilities. So you'll see the $205,000. Employee-related liabilities. The total pension liability is the law enforcement liability, $1.3 million at the end of the year. And a net pension liability below that, net liability $4.8 million at the end of the year. For those of the, again, that are new, those are liabilities the city will pay their employees, but that money is technically sitting in a bank already in Raleigh. You send those payments in monthly. This is the valuation of those accounts at the end of the year. So that 1.3 and the $4.8 million will not have to come out of the city's balances that they already been paid. The last item, the total OPEB liability, that's the health care for retirees. And that's, again, based on actuarial evaluation. That number at the end of the year is $5.9 million. Page 58, this is a 5 or 6 page breakdown of the revenue expenses we've already talked about by department, by revenue. I won't really go over that except just to look at the end, which is on page 65, and we've already talked about that. Funds projected to receive $4.5 million, which you did over the last 2 years. That money was transferred into the general fund to help with expenses. And then on page 67, the state direct grant of $3.5 million, and that money has also been drawn down and spent. Part of that was used in the prior year to help reduce debt. So the third thing I've mentioned in the last few years is your property tax collection rate, which the city doesn't really have control over because the county collects your property taxes. But I've always said the statewide average is 99%. You've never been there. This year, you're 99.16% property tax collection. And what that means is you're collecting your revenues on your taxes, and that helps with the general fund. So just a couple more things. Because you received the $2 million in ARPA money, you stepped up a level in what we call audit. Just a couple more things. Because you received the $2 million in ARPA money, you stepped up a level in what we call audit. It's a uniform guidance audits thing. We have to do a little.
CBDG.
No, CDBG this year was $408,000.
Is that not?
That is in here.
Is that federal or state?
That's federal.
Federal. Okay.
So to summarize, financially, it's the best year in years. The general fund made money on its own, but then with the influx of the ARPA money, your fund balance increased, your unassigned fund balance increased. Second year for your new finance director, I think things are running smoothly, internal control. We didn't have any suggestions or any concerns as far as segregation duties or anything we saw out of the ordinary.
Questions, Mr. Edmond? Did you say that the average undesignated fund balance was around 34?
34%.
No questions? All right.
Okay.
Thank you for the report.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, at this time I would like to ask for a motion to accept the audit as presented.
Okay. City manager, and I will request a motion to approve the audit as it is presented.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Bell, a second by Councilman Smith. Is there any more discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The audit will be approved. Call on the city manager for her report.
I'm going to keep my remarks short
want
tonight,
to-
primarily
Okay.
for the agenda, but just want to take a moment to say thank you to our staff for their responsible spending and management of budgets for really a positive audit that we have received from the state as well. And just want to say Merry Christmas to everyone and thank you for all you do.
Ms. Johnson?
Okay. So, for November, the general fund, year-to-date receipts was 9.2 million. Expenditures were 7.8 million. Revenues exceeded expenditures by 1.3 million. So main sources of, revenue were ad valorem, motor vehicle sales tax. Let's see, the city is, in good, financial condition. Also, year-to-date interest income is at 251,000. So we're doing very well in that aspect.
Questions, Finance Director?
How's our income compared to last year?
We are, basically everything is running about the same. Last year at this time, it was at 46.3%, and we are at 48.4% this year. So a little bit better.
Anybody else have a question? All right, thank you, ma'am. I call on the city manager now. We'll conduct a public hearing on a CBDG grant.
Yes, the public hearing for tonight, and I'm going to allow our grant administrator from Insight Planning and Chris Hilbert to speak more specifically about any of the program activities. But in 2020, the city had applied for the grant that included the demolition and reconstruction of 2 residential dwelling units, rehabilitation, and the public facility improvements by providing the bathhouse at Child and Recreation Park. As just mentioned by the auditor, that these funds are federal money that's essentially passed through the State Department of Commerce for administration and spending supervision. And the timeline on this particular grant is run its course, and a new grant has been applied for as well to continue these efforts with homeowners. But tonight, just Mr. Hilbert, you're welcome to go to the podium, but to talk about the program successes and also to conduct the business of opening and conducting a public hearing to receive any citizen comments on the expenditure of CDBG funds, and then a motion to close the public hearing to move forward with the closeout to the grant with the Department of Commerce. So, Mr. Hilbert, if you want to add any more to that.
Okay. So as Kelly mentioned, this project was applied for during COVID, which kind of had its own challenges. We determined early on that there were a couple of units that were ineligible, as nobody had actually looked at the houses when they were applied for, because there were of those challenges. So we accomplished reconstructing 2 homes for 2 elderly households, and of course all the units that are directly benefited are low to moderate income individuals. And then we did a one large family rehabilitation. It was a family of 6. 3 different neighborhoods in the city got that housing assistance. We've, as she mentioned, there's been a new application submitted, so we helped with preparing that as well through this grant to help submit for the next grant. The early indications are that that's going to be favorable, but until you get a letter, you can't guarantee anything. So, also the bathrooms at Challenger Park, that was a big part of the project. Had its own challenges that we had to deal with ordering. The city also kind of kicked in some with like tying everything together, things like that. So I think that's a very good public benefit that you got from this project. So I'll be happy to answer any questions if anybody has any, or if you want to just open the public hearing.
Any questions of the director? If not, I'll open the public hearing at this time for comments from the public. If anybody has any comments. There is no one that wishes to speak. I would move that public hearing be closed. I think we'll need a motion to close this out.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing and proceed with closing out the CDBG Neighborhood Revitalization Project 19C 3135 to the North Carolina Department of Commerce.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilwoman Bryant. Do I hear a second to her motion?
Second.
Second by Councilman Smith. Any more discussion on the matter? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion will be approved. Thank you, and thank you for your report. Yield back to you, Ms. Trainer.
Excuse me.
You want to do your report now?
Oh,
Is that all your report?
yes, I
Okay.
figured I'd keep it brief and
Okay, all right.
for the sake of
Is
time.
there any other business that needs to come before the council tonight?
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Motion by Councilman Smith to adjourn. Second by Mr. Steinbach. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. We'd be adjourned. Wish everybody a Merry Christmas.